Welcome to the monk's temple. Come in, and settle into this space. There is no need to do anything right now, except to be present. Let your attention drift gently to the rhythm of your own breath, in and out. In this quiet, questions often surface from the depths of our hearts. One of the most profound, the most tender, is this: what is true love? We spend our lives searching for it, feeling its presence, its absence. Yet, so often, the love we experience carries with it a subtle tension, a quiet fear. It feels like holding on, tightly, to something precious that we sense is always slipping away. This grip, this clinging, is a source of deep suffering. What if there is another way? A love that doesn't clutch, but cradles. A love that doesn't confine, but sets free. Tonight, we explore this question through the gentle, illuminating wisdom of Buddhism. The Buddhist teachings offer a map for the heart, revealing a fundamental distinction between two forces that shape our relationships. One is born from fear and scarcity. The other flows from generosity and abundance. One is called attachment. The other is called loving kindness. Though they may feel similar in a moment of passion, they lead to entirely different worlds. Let me share a memory. Years ago, I visited a master woodcarver in a small mountain village. He was known for his ability to bring life from blocks of fragrant cedar. In his workshop, I saw a piece he was working on, a fledgling bird, wings half open, emerging from the wood. He showed me his tools, gouges and chisels of various sizes. Then he picked up a simple sanding cloth. "This," he said softly, stroking the wood with it, "is the most important tool. The cutting shapes it, but this," he continued the gentle motion, "this reveals the grain. It listens to the wood. If I only cut, I force my idea onto it. But when I listen, I help its own beauty emerge. Force creates a shape. Listening creates a soul." This has stayed with me as a lesson about love. Attachment is like the gouge, it seeks to shape the other person to fit our idea, our need, our vision of how they should be. It is an act of force, however subtle. True love, in the Buddhist sense, is like that sanding cloth. It is a patient, attentive listening. It doesn't seek to carve, but to understand, to reveal, to nurture what is already there. It is a process of allowing, not making. This is the core concept we will explore: love as a selfless act of attentive listening versus attachment as a forceful act of personal creation. If this perspective speaks to you, I warmly invite you to become part of our community here at the Monk's Temple. By subscribing, you allow these gentle reflections to accompany you on your journey, offering moments of peace and insight. Now, let's begin at the true beginning. In Buddhism, the foundation of all genuine love is metta, often translated as loving kindness. Metta is not a feeling that simply happens to you when conditions are right. It is a conscious practice, a choice you make again and again. It is the unconditional wish for happiness. And the Buddha's profound insight was that this wish must first be directed inward. We often think love is something we give away. But if our own inner landscape is barren or filled with self-judgment, what kind of love can we offer? It would be like trying to pour water from an empty cup. So we start by filling our own cup. We start by befriending ourselves. Take a soft breath. Feel the space within your chest. Silently, gently, offer these wishes to yourself. May I be at ease. May I be gentle with myself. May I accept this moment. There is no need to believe the words instantly. Just offer them, like planting a seed in fertile soil. This is not vanity. This is the essential groundwork of compassion. You are learning the language of kindness, starting with the person you are with every moment of your life, you. From this rooted place of self-acceptance, metta naturally expands. Picture a stone dropped into a still pond. The ripples move outward. So it is with loving kindness. You begin with yourself. Then, you extend the same gentle wishes to someone dear to you. May you be happy. May you be safe. Then to a friend, to a stranger, even to someone with whom you have difficulty. Finally, you extend this wish to all beings, everywhere. The practice is in the repetition, in the quiet redirection of your heart's energy from separation to connection. You are not doing this to get anything. You are practicing love as a state of being, not as a transaction. This is the first, revolutionary principle of true love from the Buddha's wisdom, love as a gift given freely, with no expectation of return. It stands in stark contrast to the whispered terms and conditions of attachment, which says, I will love you if. I will love you as long as. Metta has no if. It has no as long as. It is a pure, unbounded well-wishing. I remember seeing this principle in action in a simple, everyday moment. I was at a quiet cafe, and at the next table, an elderly woman was having tea with her adult son. The son was speaking animatedly about a major career risk he was about to take, leaving a stable job to start his own venture in a different city. His mother listened, her hands wrapped around her teacup. Her face was a landscape of emotions, concern, pride, fear, love. When he finished, he looked at her, perhaps expecting worry or caution. She was silent for a long moment. Then she reached across the table, placed her hand over his, and said, "Your heart has always known its own compass. My job was never to hold the map, but to make sure you knew you were brave enough to read it." She did not cling to her need for his proximity or security. Her love was in her belief in him, in his journey, even if it led him far from her. That is metta. This is where our path begins. With the understanding that the deepest love is not a chain that binds, but a light that illuminates. It starts with the courage to be kind to yourself, and from that source, it flows outward as a steady, gentle river of goodwill, asking for nothing in return. This is just the opening of our exploration into the heart. Welcome back. Let us find our quiet space again, settling into the gentle rhythm of this shared contemplation. In our last moments, we began with the seed, love as a selfless, unattached wish for well-being, known as metta. We learn to turn that kindness first inward, filling our own cup so we have something pure to offer. But life, in its raw and beautiful truth, is not composed solely of wishes and well-being. It is woven through with moments of piercing vulnerability, of confusion, of pain that sits heavy in the chest. What does love do when it meets this reality? Does it retreat into platitudes, or does it find a deeper courage? This brings us to the second luminous pillar of true love in the Buddha's profound teaching, Karuna. Compassion. Karuna is metta meeting the real world. It is loving kindness that does not flinch in the face of suffering. In the wisdom of Buddhism, compassion is far more than feeling sorry for someone. Pity observes from a safe distance. Compassion crosses the distance. It is the heart's resonant recognition that pain is a universal language. The word itself suggests a trembling of the heart, a quivering empathy that moves us to want to alleviate suffering. The Buddha's first noble truth is the recognition of suffering. Compassionate love, therefore, is not a denial of this truth, but a courageous embrace of it. It does not seek to quickly fix someone's pain to restore our own comfort. Its goal is to offer a sanctuary of presence within the pain itself. Imagine walking through a deep forest at night with a dear friend. Your friend twists an ankle and cannot walk. Attachment, born from fear and a desire for the journey to go as planned, might manifest as impatience. Try to stand. We have to keep moving. Just walk it off. It focuses on the interrupted goal. Compassion is different. It stops. It kneels down. It says, "This must hurt. Let's rest here." It might gather branches to make a splint, offer a shoulder for support, or simply sit in the dark, sharing the silence until the sharpest pain passes. Compassion's focus is not on the path ahead, but on the person who is hurting, right here, right now. Its action is born from attentive listening to the need of the moment, not from a pre-written script of how things should be. I recall a story from my own early days at the monastery, involving a visitor named Anya. She was a writer, articulate and bright, but she came to us in a state of what she called a frozen heart. Her brother had passed away unexpectedly a year prior, and while she had performed all the expected rituals of grief, she felt a wall between herself and the world, especially her husband, Ben. Ben, a man of action, had tried everything to thaw her. He planned vacations, filled their home with friends, bought her gifts, encouraged her to write again. Each attempt, made with love, felt to Anya like a demand, please be the person you were before. His actions, though kind, were a form of pulling. They came from his own fear of her sorrow, his own attachment to their former happiness. Anya only retreated further, feeling more isolated and, secretly, like a failure for not healing on his schedule. One afternoon, she sat in the garden, simply staring at the ground. Ben usually would have brought her a book or suggested a walk. But that day, he did something different. He had been speaking with one of our elder monks. He came out, sat on the bench beside her, not touching her, and followed her gaze to the earth. After a long silence, he said, very softly, "It must feel so heavy, to carry that much love with no place for it to go." He didn't mention her brother. He didn't offer a solution. He simply named the weight. Anya did not look at him, but a single tear traced a path down her cheek. That was the beginning. Ben had stopped pulling. He had simply sat down beside her in the emotional forest where she was stranded. That was Karuna. He waded into the pool of her grief and just stayed there, offering the warmth of his presence as the only light. His agenda dissolved, replaced by a patient, shared bearing of the weight. This is the transformative power of compassionate love. It requires us to surrender our map for another person's journey. It asks us to be a grounded witness, to hold a space where suffering is allowed to exist without being labeled a problem to be solved. This is profoundly counterinstinctual. Our ego wants to be the hero who resolves the pain. Our attachment wants the discomfort to end so equilibrium can return. Compassionate love has the bravery to say, "I don't need to be the hero. I just need to be truly here with you. Your pain is valid, and I will not look away from it." From this deep, compassionate grounding, a third quality naturally begins to bloom, one that is the direct antidote to the poison of comparison and scarcity. Let us settle in again, finding that inner quiet where deep understanding can take root. We have explored the gentle wish of Metta and the courageous presence of Karuna. Now, we turn our attention to a quality that can feel, for many, like the most challenging to cultivate, yet it is the very fragrance of a free heart. Mudita, or sympathetic joy. In the landscape of human emotion, jealousy and envy are like invasive weeds. They choke the natural flow of connection and contentment. We are often trained, subtly and not so subtly, in a mindset of comparison and scarcity. We unconsciously absorb the belief that happiness, success, and love exist in limited quantities, like pieces of a single pie. If someone else, especially a partner or a close friend, receives a large slice, we can feel a pang, a contraction, a sense that there is now less for us. This is the voice of attachment, always calculating, always measuring our worth against another's fortune. Mudita arises from a radically different understanding. It sees joy not as a finite pie, but as an infinite flame. Lighting another person's candle from your own does not dim your light, it increases the total light in the room. Another's happiness does not subtract from your own, it can actually amplify it, if you allow your heart to resonate with their good fortune. Within the framework of true love as taught in Buddhism, Mudita is this celebratory, generous spirit. It is the genuine, unforced delight you feel when your partner shares exciting news from their independent work, even if your own day was mundane. It is the warm happiness that swells when a close friend finds a profound new connection, even if you are in a season of solitude. It is the pure joy for a sibling's accomplishment, free from the shadow of, "What about me?" Mudita contains no "but." It is a clean, expansive joy. It asks us to loosen the tight grip of our personal ego, our own narrative of lack, and to expand our sense of self to include the well-being and triumphs of others. Let me illustrate with an original story. Two architects, Clara and David, had been friends and collaborators since university. They shared a similar aesthetic but different strengths. Clara was a visionary, brilliant with conceptual designs. David was a master of practical detail, making the impossible buildable. When a prestigious international competition was announced, they both entered separately. Clara spent months on a breathtaking, avant-garde concept. David focused on an ingeniously sustainable and community-focused design. The results came. David's project won the top honor. Clara's received an honorable mention. At the gala, Clara stood at the periphery, a glass in hand, watching David being celebrated. A familiar, bitter cocktail of emotions stirred, disappointment in herself, a sharp sting of envy, and a hollow feeling of being left behind. This was the voice of attachment, comparing and devaluing. But Clara had been practicing mindfulness. She noticed the storm of feelings without drowning in it. She took a few conscious breaths, feeling the tightness in her chest. Then, she made a deliberate choice. She walked across the room, waited for a break in the well-wishers, and stood before David. She looked him in the eye, pushed aside her own complex feelings, and said, "David, your design is a masterpiece of heart and logic. I am so genuinely proud of you. You deserve this completely." She meant it. As she spoke the words, something shifted. The forced smile softened into a real one. The constriction in her heart began to ease. She allowed herself to feel the rightness of his victory, the justice of his talent being recognized. In that moment, she wasn't Clara the competitor, she was Clara the friend, sharing in a joyful event. Her own honorable mention, which had felt like a consolation prize moments before, now felt like a true honor. By practicing mudita, she didn't diminish her own achievement. She liberated herself from the suffering of comparison and tapped into a shared, abundant joy. In a romantic partnership, this quality is the bedrock of security, not the security of possession, but the security of mutual empowerment. It is what allows you to celebrate your partner's separate friendships, their personal hobbies that don't involve you, their professional successes that are theirs alone, without a flicker of threat or insecurity. It is the love that says, "Your light does not outshine mine, together we create a brighter radiance." This is the ultimate trust that your bond is strong enough to contain both of your individual growth and flourishing. Cultivating mudita is a conscious practice. When you hear of another's good fortune, pause. Notice any immediate tightening, any mental calculation of what it means for you. Breathe into that sensation without judgment. Then, deliberately, inwardly say, "How wonderful! I share in your happiness." You are retraining your heart's reflex from one of scarcity to one of abundance, from separation to shared celebration. From this expansive, joyful connection, we arrive at the quality that provides serene stability through all of life's inevitable changes and challenges. This is the fourth pillar, the one that allows love to be a peaceful harbor rather than a turbulent sea. Let your awareness settle softly, like a leaf coming to rest on a still pond. We have journeyed through the wishing of Metta, the sharing of Karuna, and the celebrating of Mudita. These are the beautiful, active expressions of the heart. But what holds them steady? What prevents our loving kindness from becoming clingy, our compassion from turning to burnout, our joy from fluctuating with every change in fortune? We arrive now at the foundation, the bedrock of true emotional freedom. Upekkha, or equanimity. In the Buddha's teachings, equanimity is not cold detachment or indifference. It is not a lack of feeling. True Upekkha is a profound, unshakable balance of heart. It is the deep-seated understanding and acceptance of the core truth of anicca, impermanence. All things that arise will pass: joy, sorrow, gain, loss, praise, and blame. Equanimity is the wisdom that allows us to engage fully with life's changing conditions without being thrown into turmoil by them. It is the quality of a vast, deep lake. The surface may be stirred by winds and storms, the passions and conflicts of daily life, but the depths remain calm, clear, and undisturbed. Let us consider a metaphor. Imagine you are a majestic, ancient tree in a forest. Your roots go deep into the earth. Metta, Karuna, and Mudita are like your leaves and branches, reaching for the sun, offering shade, moving with the breeze, bearing fruit. Upekkha is your trunk and your root system. It is your unwavering presence. Seasons change. Spring brings tender leaves and blossoms, new love, joy. Summer brings full, green canopy, deep connection, stability. Autumn brings a brilliant display of color followed by letting go, mature love, necessary endings. Winter brings bare branches and quiet rest, solitude, introspection, challenges. Through it all, the tree does not cling desperately to its spring blossoms, weeping as each autumn leaf falls. It does not resent the winter's bareness. It rests in each phase, embodying its tree nature completely, with a deep, silent equanimity. It trusts the cycle. This is the gift of equanimity in love. It allows us to love our partner not only in their vibrant summer, full of energy and shared passion, but also in their quiet winter, a time of introspection, fatigue, or sorrow. We love them, the essential being, not just the seasonal version of them that is most pleasing or convenient for us. With Upekkha, we do not love more today because they fulfill our desires and love less tomorrow because they disappoint us. The fundamental well-wishing, the core commitment to their happiness and growth, remains constant. It is a love that is not contingent on performance or mood. A story comes to mind. I once knew a couple, Leo and Maya, who were both artists. Leo was a painter, his work fiery and emotional. Maya was a sculptor, her work quiet and contemplative. In the early years, they fueled each other's creativity in a storm of shared passion. This was their spring and summer. Then, Leo entered a period of profound creative block. No paintings emerged for over a year. He grew irritable, withdrawn, and doubt-ridden. Maya's initial response was from a place of attachment and fear. She tried to fix him, buying him new brushes, suggesting themes, pushing him to paint. This only made him feel more inadequate and angry. The connection strained. Maya then began to study meditation. She encountered the concept of Upekkha. She realized she had been trying to force Leo back into his summer self because his winter made her uncomfortable and afraid for their future. She decided to practice equanimity. She stopped pushing. She continued her own sculpting, creating a serene space in their home. When Leo was brooding, she didn't prod. She might simply bring him a cup of tea and sit quietly nearby, her own presence calm and undemanding. She loved him without needing him to be a certain way for her. She became the steady trunk while he went through his storm. It wasn't indifference, it was a deep, patient faith in his process. After many months, Leo's block began to thaw, not because she fixed it, but because the pressure was gone. He emerged with a new, more mature style. Maya's equanimity had provided the non-reactive space necessary for his transformation. Her love had become a sanctuary of acceptance, not a factory for production. This balanced heart is what the Buddha pointed to as ultimate freedom in relationships. It is a love that participates fully in the dance of life without getting tangled in the steps, that holds the other with open palms, not clenched fists. It understands that all experiences are temporary guests. This wisdom allows us to appreciate a beautiful moment without the clinging fear of its end, because we have made peace with the truth of endings and beginnings. Now that we have explored the four sublime abodes of the heart, Metta, Karuna, Mudita, and Upekkha, we have a complete architecture of true love from the Buddhist perspective. But to build this within ourselves, we must first clearly see the unstable ground on which we often stand, the terrain of attachment. Let us breathe and settle. We have built, together, a picture of a spacious, resilient love, grounded in four boundless qualities. Now, we must turn our gaze inward, with gentle honesty, to examine the common ground upon which we often try to build our connections, the ground of attachment. In the clarity of the Buddha's wisdom, understanding attachment is not about blame or shame, it is about diagnosis. It is seeing the splinter in the heart so it may be removed, allowing love to flow without obstruction. Attachment, or tanha, craving, thirst, is the constricting force that masquerades as love. It is the closed fist where love is the open hand. Its core motivation is not, how may I contribute to your happiness, but, how do you make me feel? It is a transaction, often unconscious, where the other person is valued for their role in satisfying our needs, soothing our fears, or bolstering our identity. When we are attached, we do not see the person in their full, sacred individuality. We see them as a source of comfort, validation, security, or excitement. We hold on to them like a life raft in a churning sea, and our grip is tight with the fear of sinking. Let me offer a new metaphor. Imagine two people looking at a magnificent, star-filled night sky. The person operating from attachment brings a telescope. They fix it on a single, beautiful star. This one is mine, they think. It is the brightest, the most beautiful. I must keep it in my sight always. They become obsessed with that one point of light. If clouds pass over it, they are filled with anxiety. If someone else admires it, they feel possessive. Their entire experience of the vast, wondrous cosmos is reduced to the fear of losing one star. The person operating from true love simply lies back on the earth, eyes wide open, taking in the entire celestial panorama. They appreciate the single star too, but as part of a boundless, interconnected tapestry. They feel awe at its brilliance, but also peace in knowing it has its own place in the great dance. If clouds obscure it, they appreciate the texture of the clouds. Their joy is not dependent on controlling the single point of light, it is derived from a participatory wonder with the whole. Attachment is the telescope, narrowing our world to a single, fragile point of dependence. Love is the open gaze, embracing the boundless, ever-changing whole of another person and our shared existence. I will share a story about a man named Daniel, who believed deeply he was in love with a woman named Sophie. Daniel adored Sophie's vitality, her social grace, her intelligence. He showered her with gifts, wanted to spend every moment together, and spoke of their future constantly. But his love had a specific shape. He became anxious when she had dinner with old friends without him. He subtly criticized her choice to take a demanding job that required travel, saying, "We won't have time for us." He was thrilled when her accomplishments made her happy, but only if he felt he was the primary cause of that happiness. Daniel was not looking at Sophie, he was looking at his own reflection in her. He loved the version of her that made him feel secure, admired, and complete. He was holding the telescope to the single star of Sophie as my partner, and any movement of that star outside his field of vision caused panic. Sophie, initially flattered, began to feel a slow suffocation. She felt she was shrinking, folding herself into the shape of Daniel's needs. This is the inevitable result of attachment, it confines. It asks the wild forest to become a bonsai tree, beautiful but eternally stunted. Eventually, Sophie had to choose between her own wholeness and the confines of Daniel's love. She left. Daniel was devastated, convinced of the depth of his love by the intensity of his pain. But his pain was not the pain of losing Sophie in her totality. It was the pain of losing his source, his mirror, his anchor, his star. It was the pain of the telescope being broken, leaving him alone in a sky he had never learned to truly see. This is the critical distinction the Buddha makes. The suffering that follows attachment is not proof of love's depth, it is proof of clinging's fragility. True love, built on Metta and Upekkha, might feel profound sorrow at a parting, but it is a clean sorrow, not mixed with the bitterness of, "How could you do this to me?" or the devastation of a shattered identity. It is the sorrow of the open sky acknowledging the passing of a particular cloud, a sadness within a vast, enduring peace. From this understanding, we see that attachment is inherently fearful. It is a contract written in invisible ink, full of unspoken conditions. I will love you as long as you make me feel safe, as long as you prioritize me, as long as you remain as you are. Life, being impermanent, inevitably breaks these conditions. The person changes. Circumstances shift. The fear-based structure then cracks, resulting in conflict, control, jealousy, and heartache. Let us find our center again, breathing into the space between understanding and practice. We have looked clearly at the fragile architecture of attachment and the liberating expanse of true love. Now, we arrive at the most vital question: how do we begin to move from one to the other? The Buddha's path is not one of theory, but of practical, moment-to-moment cultivation. The transformation from clinging to loving kindness is the heart's own journey toward freedom. It begins not with changing another person, but with changing our relationship to our own mind and heart. Think of your heart as a garden. For many years, perhaps, the dominant gardener has been attachment. This gardener is nervous and controlling. They favor one type of flower, the rose of possession, and fear any weed of independence. They water with the anxious hope of constant bloom, and when a plant withers or grows in an unexpected direction, they panic, trying to prune it back into a familiar shape. The soil of this garden is often depleted, because the focus is solely on the output, the flower, and not on the holistic health of the ecosystem. Our work is to gently retire this anxious gardener and invite a new one to tend the plot, the gardener of compassionate awareness. This gardener understands seasons. They know some plants need sun, others need shade. They appreciate the wildflowers that self-seed, spontaneous joy, as much as the cultivated rose, commitment. They water with the gentle intention of nourishment, not control. They see the value in the decaying leaves that become compost, our past hurts, transformed into wisdom. This gardener's primary tool is not a pruning shear, but a patient, observing presence. They tend the soil of our own inner being first, knowing that healthy roots will support all kinds of beautiful, resilient growth. Let me tell you a story about two friends who were, quite literally, gardeners. Ilara preferred orchids. She kept them in a precisely controlled greenhouse. Exact humidity, strict temperature, measured light. She loved their exotic beauty, but they were fragile. If one failed to bloom, she took it as a personal failure, fussing over it until it often died from the stress of her intervention. Her garden was a museum of perfect, static beauty, and she was its anxious curator. Her friend, Ben, tended a native pollinator garden. He chose plants that belonged to their local climate: milkweed, coneflower, bee balm. His approach was to prepare the soil richly, plant wisely, and then observe. He watered, but not excessively. He welcomed insects, even the ones that nibbled leaves, understanding they were part of the whole. When a plant struggled, he didn't panic. He might move it to a sunnier spot or give it more space, but he also accepted that some plants had their own cycle. His garden was not a static picture, it was a vibrant, buzzing, ever-changing habitat. It was alive in a way Ilara's greenhouse was not. Ilara's garden is a metaphor for love as attachment. It is based on control, ideal conditions, and a fear of anything wild or unexpected. Its beauty is brittle. Ben's garden is love as Metta and Upekkha. It is based on providing nourishing conditions, respecting inherent nature, and embracing the dynamic, interconnected life of the whole. Its beauty is resilient and teeming with life. Your first practical step is to become Ben for your own heart. Start with the soil. This is the practice of mindful self-compassion. Several times a day, pause. Place a hand on your heart. Feel the beat of your life. Acknowledge, with the gentle gardener's awareness, what is growing there right now. Is there the thorny bush of anxiety? The delicate sprout of a new hope? The faded flower of an old regret? Do not judge these as weeds or prized blooms. Simply acknowledge them. Ah, anxiety is here. I feel its tightness. This simple act of naming, without following the story the feeling tells, is like turning the soil. It aerates. It brings awareness to what is present. Then, water this soil with the kindness of Metta directed inward. Silently offer, may I be gentle with this anxiety. May I give it space to be, without letting it overgrow the whole garden. You are not trying to rip out the thorny bush. You are changing your relationship to it, tending the soil around it so it does not dominate. This practice, done consistently, begins to repattern the very ground of your being from a place of lack and fear to a place of nurturing acceptance. As you tend your own inner garden, you will naturally begin to relate to others differently. You will start to see their thorny bushes and delicate sprouts not as threats to your garden or failures of their gardening, but as part of their unique landscape. You can then extend the gardener's gentle observation, ah, I see you are dealing with the thorny bush of anger today. May I offer you the space of my presence, as soil holds space for a plant. This shift from being a curator of a museum to a tender of a living habitat is the essence of the path. It moves us from the exhausting work of control to the peaceful practice of cultivation. It understands that we cannot force a rose to become a sunflower, but we can ensure both have the conditions to become their most magnificent selves. Let us settle into this space once more, breathing into the quiet between our thoughts. We have begun the inner work of tending our own garden, learning to be the compassionate gardener of our heart. Now, we must bring this tender awareness into the relational field, where the old weeds of attachment grow most stubbornly. How do we practice this new way of being when faced with the sharp sting of jealousy, the cold frost of distance, or the tangled vines of misunderstanding? The Buddha's wisdom offers not a suppression of these difficult feelings, but a transformative way of meeting them. Consider the emotion of jealousy. In the metaphor of the garden, jealousy is like an invasive, fast-spreading weed. It has shallow roots but a powerful ability to choke out other plants. The traditional, attached response is to frantically pull at the weed, which often leaves the roots behind, ensuring it grows back stronger. Or, we might turn our anger outward, blaming the other garden, our partner, a friend, for allowing a foreign pollinator, attention from another, to visit. This is the act of the anxious curator, desperate to control the ecosystem. The mindful gardener's approach is different. First, they recognize the weed. They pause and say, ah, jealousy is here. They do not berate themselves for its presence. Weeds are a natural part of any garden, they are not a moral failing. Second, they investigate it with gentle curiosity. They ask, what conditions allowed this to sprout? Is the soil feeling insecure? Is there a fear of not being enough? Jealousy is almost always a signal of an unmet need or a deep-seated fear of abandonment. By inquiring softly, you are not feeding the weed, you are understanding its cause. Third, they tend to the soil beneath it. This is the practice of self-metta. You might place a hand on your heart and whisper, "It's okay to feel afraid of loss. May I feel secure in myself. May I trust in my own worth." You are nourishing the deep roots of your own well-being, so the shallow weed of jealousy loses its hold. Finally, you can choose a skillful action, not from the weed's panic, but from the gardener's care. This might be a calm, vulnerable conversation with your partner about your feelings of insecurity, framed not as an accusation but as a sharing of your inner weather. "I noticed a feeling of insecurity come up in me when X happened. I am tending to it, and I wanted to share my process with you." Let me share a story about a couple, Sam and Kai. Sam loved Kai's vibrant social nature, but Kai had a close, long-standing friendship with an ex-partner, Jamie. They shared a hobby Sam didn't enjoy. Every time Kai spent an afternoon with Jamie, Sam would feel a cold knot of jealousy. The attached response had been to make passive-aggressive comments, which led to arguments. After learning this practice, Sam tried a new way. The next time the knot formed, Sam went for a walk alone. First, recognition: this is the jealousy knot. It feels cold and tight in my chest. Second, investigation: what is underneath? I feel scared that their shared history and hobby create a bond one can't access. I feel insecure, like an outsider. Third, tending the soil, Sam sat on a park bench, breathing into the tightness, silently offering, "May I feel connected. May I know my own unique worth in Kai's life. This fear is about me, not about them." The knot didn't vanish, but it loosened. That evening, Sam said to Kai, "I felt some of my old insecurity come up today when you were with Jamie. I'm working on it in my own garden. I just wanted you to know, because I love you and I want to be transparent as I grow." This vulnerable, non-blaming statement, rooted in self-awareness, opened a compassionate dialogue instead of a defensive argument. Sam tended their own weed, and in doing so, prevented it from spreading poison into the shared space of the relationship. Similarly, the frost of distance, when a partner withdraws or is emotionally unavailable, can trigger the attached response of pursuit: more demands, more questions, more attempts to extract warmth, which only deepens the freeze. The mindful gardener sees the frost and understands it as a season. They do not blame the plant for needing to conserve energy. They might provide a gentle, protective mulch of space and quiet care. They focus on maintaining their own inner warmth, metta, and stability, upekkha, trusting that the frost will pass in its own time, and that their steady, non-demanding presence is the most nurturing condition they can offer. This practice is the essence of loving without clinging. It is having the feelings, the jealousy, the fear, the loneliness, but relating to them as weather in your inner sky, not as commands you must obey or truths you must enact. You are the spacious sky, not the storm. And from that sky-like awareness, you can choose actions that are wise, kind, and truly loving, rather than reactive, fearful, and possessive. Welcome back. Let us breathe into a sense of expansion, as if the walls of this quiet room are dissolving into open sky. We have tended our inner garden and navigated the relational thickets with a gardener's mindful care. Now, the Buddha's profound teaching invites us to look even further. True love, in its ultimate expression, is not a private contract between two people. It is not a circle drawn to include some and exclude others. It is, instead, a boundless, radiant quality of heart that seeks no borders. The Buddha called this Brahmavihara, the sublime or divine abidings. We have explored them as the pillars of personal relationship: Metta, loving-kindness; Karuna, compassion; Mudita, sympathetic joy; and Upekkha, equanimity. But their full power is unleashed when we let them flow unrestricted, toward all beings, without exception. This is the radical, revolutionary heart of Buddhist love. It moves from, "I love you," to a state of being that is, in essence, loving. It is the difference between lighting a single candle in your room to keep the darkness at bay, and becoming a source of light yourself, one that illuminates every corner you touch without discrimination. Attachment is the candle in the room, precious but limited, fearful of the wind. Universal love is the sun, giving its light freely to the entire landscape, asking for nothing in return. Let me offer a metaphor. Imagine you have a single, beautiful lantern. It gives a warm, golden light. This is the love of attachment. You carefully carry it, protecting its flame. You might share its light with someone very close, but you are always aware of the oil, the wick, the possibility of it being blown out. Your world is the circle of its glow. Now, imagine you realize you are not the keeper of a lantern, but a living window made of clear glass. Your purpose is not to generate light from a private, fragile source, but to allow the boundless, eternal light of awareness and kindness to pass through you, unobstructed. You don't own the light, you are a conduit for it. Storms may splash mud on the glass, our negative emotions, but the light itself remains untouched, and with practice, we learn to keep the glass clean. This is the shift from being a holder of love to being a channel for love. This is not an abstract ideal. It is a practice that begins with intention and expands through deliberate cultivation. You start with yourself, then your beloved, your friend, a neutral person, a difficult person, and finally, all sentient beings. The practice is to sit quietly and systematically extend the phrases of Metta: may you be happy. May you be safe. May you be free from suffering. You include the stranger in the checkout line, the politician you disagree with, the insect on the windowsill. You are not condoning harmful actions, you are wishing for the root of suffering within that being to be healed. You are recognizing that, like you, all beings wish to be happy and to avoid pain. This practice rewires the heart from a posture of us and them to one of profound, interconnected we. A story illustrates this expansion. There was a woman named Clara who ran a small neighborhood grocery. She was kind to her regular customers but held a simmering resentment for the larger chain store that had opened down the street, fearing it would ruin her business. One day, a young man from that chain store, named Leo, came into her shop looking for a specific spice she was known to carry. Her first impulse was coldness. But she noticed his uniform, took a breath, and remembered her metta practice. As she fetched the spice, she silently offered, "May you be safe. May you be free from stress." She felt her own tightness ease. She handed him the spice with a genuine smile. He looked surprised, then relieved. "Thank you," he said. "My manager sent me on a wild goose chase. He's been so tense with the new quarterly targets. It's been rough." In that moment, Clara didn't see a soldier from the rival store, she saw a young man under pressure, just like anyone. Her circle of care expanded by one person. Later, when her cooler broke down, Leo arranged for his store's repairman to look at it as a favor. An unexpected connection was formed, not from strategy, but from a single moment of universalizing kindness. Clara's small act of extending Metta softened a boundary, creating a ripple of goodwill. This universal love is the ultimate protection for your personal relationships. When your love for your partner is a specific, precious instance of a love you hold for all life, it is freed from the crushing burden of being your only source of light, your only meaning. Your partner becomes a beautiful, intimate focus of a love that is everywhere, not the sole container for a love that is nowhere else. This relieves them of the impossible duty of being your everything, and it relieves you of the terror of their being your only thing. Your love for them becomes more joyful, more generous, and more secure because it is rooted in a heart that is already full, already connected to the whole. Let us settle in for this final, gentle moment together. Breathe deeply, and allow the many threads we have gathered to rest softly in your awareness. We have journeyed far, from the first recognition of the clenched fist of attachment to the spacious, open hand of loving kindness. We have explored the four boundless abodes of the heart, tended the inner garden, and learned to weave the tapestry of a loving awareness. Now, we arrive at the destination, not as an end, but as a beginning, the understanding that true love is the heart's own liberation. In the Buddha's profound vision, the ultimate goal is freedom, freedom from suffering, from ignorance, from the chains of craving. What we have been exploring is the application of that freedom to the most intimate terrain of our human experience, our capacity to love. When love is rooted in Metta, Karuna, Mudita, and Upekkha, it ceases to be a source of bondage and becomes an expression of liberation itself. You are no longer a prisoner of your needs, a hostage to your fears of loss, or a beggar at the door of another's affection. You become a sovereign in your own heart, whose natural outpouring is generosity, compassion, joy, and steady peace. Imagine for a final time that you are standing at the edge of that vast, still lake we spoke of, its surface reflecting the open sky. For so long, perhaps, you believed love was about jumping into the water, splashing, trying to grasp the reflection of the moon, becoming soaked and weary. Attachment is that frantic swimming, that clinging to reflections. The path we have walked is the path of learning to sit quietly on the shore. You learn that the love, the peace, the wholeness you seek is not out there in the elusive reflection. It is the nature of the water itself, clear, still, receptive, and inherently reflective. And you are not separate from that water. Your own heart, when calm and clear, is it. True love, therefore, is not something you find. It is not a missing piece outside of you. It is a quality of your own awareness that you uncover, cultivate, and then naturally extend. When you love from this place, you are free. You are free to be with another person without the desperate need for them to complete you. You are free to celebrate their independence without threat. You are free to offer compassion without burning out, because your care flows from an abundant source, not a draining one. You are free to face change, conflict, and even endings without your entire world collapsing, because your sense of stability is rooted in the unshakable ground of your own mindful presence, not in the shifting sands of another's behavior. This is the great secret hidden within the heart's deepest longing. We think we want to be loved. What we truly seek is to be loving. The former is a state of lack, waiting to be filled. The latter is a state of wholeness, overflowing. When you become a loving presence, the question of whether you are loved in return transforms. It becomes less urgent, less fraught. Not because you don't care for connection, but because you are already living in the fullness of love's essence. Relationships then become a beautiful, shared expression of that fullness, not a frantic search for it. So, as we close, carry this with you: you are the gardener, the weaver, the clear window, the deep lake. Your practice is simple, though not always easy. Return to your breath. Return to the gentle wish for well-being, for yourself first, then for all. Meet your clinging thoughts and fearful feelings with the compassionate observation of a gardener. Ah, this is here. Weave them into your tapestry with patience. When you forget, as you will, begin again. This gentle beginning again is the very heart of the path. Thank you for allowing this time, this space, this shared journey into the nature of love. May the understanding that has stirred here continue to grow quietly within you. May you move through your days with a lighter grip and a more open heart. May you know the peace of loving without demand, and the freedom of being loved not for what you provide, but for the beautiful, imperfect, and radiant being that you are. This is the true love the Buddha pointed to. It is your birthright. It is your home. Go in peace.